Hey guys, we're back for another episode of the NIL show. I haven't been with you guys for a couple of weeks. It's been nuts.
Yeah, it's good to have you back.
You've had a few things on your plate. Had a few things going on. You spend a week in Paris and you come back all fashion forward with corduroy. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Actually, I got that from Amazon.
Even better.
Amazon Basics.
Even better. Steven, you've had a couple things that you've been focusing on while you haven't been joining us on the pod. One of those is you were in Central America because you're on the board of directors of Gildan, which we learned is Gildan, not Gildan. How was that trip?
It was awesome. Got to see firsthand how a shirt is made from cotton to a final product. And it's just a super fascinating world. Gildan, as it's called, actually makes most of the shirts. I think they use 10% of the U.S.'s cotton supply. And
that's crazy.
Other things I learned is they make a lot of stuff for Nike and Adidas. I hope I'm allowed to say that.
It's amazing when you when you get into the manufacturing side of things. Yeah, right. When you get in the manufacturing side of things, it's crazy. You talked about that whole process of from cotton to a t-shirt and how big their facility is and how much really just goes into this little thing that we all wear and we throw it on every day without even thinking about it. It's bananas.
What's interesting is the cotton gets spun into yarn in North Carolina, then gets shipped to Honduras to get turned into fabric, dyed, cut, sewn, then back to North Carolina for distribution. Also, that we can order these within a day. I think what's really interesting is learning about the supply chain, learning what they're doing for sustainability, that they are a carbon neutral company, that they have living wages. Just got to see behind the scenes of Gildan and meet their product managers, their designers. Just learn so much, and got to meet just about meet everyone. So super cool to see that, and there's a couple things that we're working on with them that hopefully we can bring to some of our athletes. So, yeah.
I think that's the coolest thing too, is it's just such a unique opportunity and a privilege to be able to be on that. We're really grateful you're on that because it does give us a little bit of that ear into, one of the largest garment manufacturers on the planet. Hey, they're listening to us, right?
Something that we deal with every day is when we sign a university, right? It's up to us to produce, socially responsible goods that are the correct colors, that are the right fit, because there's a lot of crap out there. And there's a lot of stuff that's manufactured unethically, and to be able to go there firsthand and see it was a good vote of confidence. But when we talk to universities, I can tell them, hey, that is crimson and that's how it's made, right?
Right.
So just good to level ourselves up. And some other cool things is their product managers all have worked at Nike, Adidas, Under Armour. I got to go through our jersey samples with them and be like, hey, what would you tweak on this? What would you make a little bit better? And that was pretty sweet too, right? So all good stuff there. And then a little vacation with the wife to get away for a minute.
It's always important. A little mental
health. And we're back in action. But yeah, I think we were texting about this, guys, and we said man, the three of us just need to talk. We've interviewed a bunch of people. There's been so much going on that
a few things.
We just need to digest it all. So Sean's still married.
Yeah.
It's like a little NIL show therapy session.
I'm still married.
Adam's still a dad.
I will say, so Sean's my neighbor. By luck, we share a wall. And I was driving back from Champaign last week, and I get a text hey, are you home? And I was like, I'm parking right now. And he goes, I'm locked out. My beautiful sleeping wife will not answer her phone. And sure enough, there's Sean. But Sean's been a great neighbor. If anyone's looking for a neighbor, I've borrowed an onion, returned the favor with eggs.
And pumpkins.
I love it.
But it's cool. It's fun to be. Adam, how's Cal doing?
Cal's great. One other thing I'll say on that neighborly thing is we try to keep everything in group text just through for transparency across the organization. And I love getting the text of hey, Steven, I just got home. Your factor meals are outside. You want me to bring them up for you?
Well, Steven has a nasty habit of his factor meals. They get stolen by people outside. So I like to be an extra set of eyes on those things. We don't want
Neighborhood
them
watch
walking
mode
away.
Exactly.
in Chicago.
Yeah.
Neighborhood watch. So we've launched a couple schools, guys. Have we talked about what happened at Indiana?
Couple to a treat? No, we have not. We haven't. We got to debrief this. We got to catch everybody up to speed.
Okay. Indiana has set a record. I don't know what the record is.
We're calling
it a record because, in our game, there's no starting line or end line. There's no rules, and we set a record. Talk to us about what happened in Indiana.
So, when we launch these stores, it's really exciting. There's always a really big push at first. The athletes are hyped, the parents are hyped, we're hyped. But there's this other kind of piece around e-commerce and products that you can offer in the NIL space. And it's sometimes difficult for institutions, universities, to find people to do them really well. And so Indiana came to us and was like, hey, we have these floating head posters that we do every year. It's the athletes and the schedule, they go crazy. And we're like, okay, yeah, cool. Awesome. Posters. Sounds great. Sure, we can figure that out. They're like, no. They go crazy. I'm like, all right, we get it. You're going to sell a few posters. So we, get all the administrative stuff done, finalize the deal with the institution. We launched the Indiana store. We launched the posters. I will never forget this. It was at 1 p.m. Central, 2 p.m. Eastern. And Steven, they went crazy, man. What happened in the first 12 hours?
I don't remember.
I do.
How many thousands were sold?
Yeah, it was in the many thousands of posters. We'll just say that in the first 12 hours. In terms of ravenous, it was like dropping raw meat into a piranha-filled pool. It was incredible to see. So exciting.
So, go ahead, Sean.
No, I was just going to say, I think what's really cool about it is it really speaks to a couple different things. One, Indiana approached Steven, Adam, Campus Inc. with this opportunity. People think of us as a merch store, clothing, T-shirts, sweatshirts. These are posters. This isn't normally supposed to be in our realm of cup of tea. And I think what makes Steven so awesome is Steven was like, yeah, no, we'll find a way to do that. Yeah, this sounds like an amazing opportunity. So I think that's really cool. And then on the flip side of things is Indiana having the wherewithal to say, no, we want to make this an NIL opportunity for our athletes. There's a chance here where we think that our fans will be really into this, where they can support our athletes directly with it too. So all around, so cool.
So wait, let's dive into that. So yes, I have a way to get anything printed. If you need something printed, I have cloned my best friend's head and made a bobblehead. I have done some very weird, for weddings, I'll put, the bride's face on it for cold feet. We can print anything, and I can find a way to print just about anything.
You made koozies for my wedding. Thank you.
Yeah, at least we can do, Sean. Okay. Indiana the year before had sold 3 for $10. No NIL deal, or I think it was like a small, something very small, where the athletes were going to make pennies on it. We said, if we're going to do this, we're going to have to sell this poster, for the guys to really split a good amount of money. We're going to have to sell this poster for like $12. So we're talking a piece of paper. Okay.
And this is our whole thematic approach, right? Like if we're going to do something on the NIL side, we're going to advocate for the athletes, right? We're going to say, hey, how much money can we get them out of this deal? That's our starting point.
So normally through a normal, would have been them splitting something like, if we sold it for $12, they would have each gotten, through a normal, way, they would have split 2 or 3 pennies. I was like, that's not enough. Why would anyone? So I was like, okay, can we take 25% of that? Because that's what our rev share looks like. And then can we split that up over 13 guys? So if every guy makes 15 to 20 cents, does that seem okay? Right? Well, when you sell 10,000 posters,
turns into a pretty good bid.
The Indiana men's basketball team has made $15,000 selling this floating heads poster. And it's because we activated it in a certain way, because Indiana promoted the living daylights out of it. The story was told. Every athlete was promoting it, and they're able to see that. And so it was a group effort. Even the bookstores came in and ordered several thousand units, and we told them, look, we're going to wholesale this poster to you. It's not going to be a $2 poster. And they're like, fine. And they blew out of them. They sold out of them.
Yeah. And the feedback that we've gotten has been, I'm going to read an email right here that I literally got this afternoon at 1:30. So I hope you keep printing the floating head posters. In the last few years, they've been very difficult to find. They used to be available at local businesses. Wishing everybody all the best. Go Hoosiers. So, cool. So like people are about them. And
but
then
wait, there's more.
I started getting, yeah. And then I started getting phone calls from athletic directors who are saying like, hey, those poster things are pretty cool. How do I get my, department on board with this type of activation that is an opportunity for the athletes, not exclusively just an MMR thing or something like that. So I'm not going to lie. I had very little faith in it, and it is incredible to see.
So let's talk about those corporate sponsors too, because we even parlayed that, right? So different grocery chains, insurance companies, they were able to buy the poster, drop their logo in it, and use it as giveaways, right? Like a calendar. Mm-hmm. And so we actually built a function on the website. Mike O'Neill, one of our lead project managers, literally did it in like a day, where you could upload the logo. You could add a little bit more money to put your logo on it. And it was an NIL deal attached to it. And I think it was State Farm that did a handful of them.
Yeah, State Farm did a number of them. We even had, I think we had the Maine State, like the overarching franchise, reach out and say, hey, we want to purchase them for all of our franchise locations. And so what we do on the backside of that is we actually will serve as a liaison for the institution, right? Because if you're going to sell something licensed like that, it has to be through approved partners and all that kind of stuff. And so we're able to actually serve as the liaison for Learfield and their MMR partners to say, look, is this a vetted organization? Yep. Okay, let's run it. The institution gets their share, the athletes get their share, and the end customer, the business, gets to have these rad posters with their logo on them.
It's really it proved two things that we've kind of always known too, right? One, you give people something that they really want or that they really enjoy, they're going to buy it. But two, when you tie in that emotional element, in this case, being able to support directly their favorite players, it just pops off that much more. So it really proved that concept as well.
It also, y'all, we're also wholesaling to the bookstores. I think this is really important to talk about. So part of it is obviously direct to consumer, meaning we sell it on the Indiana NIL store, but we want to support the bookstores. And so at Indiana, you've got TIS, which is like Game Day Spirit. You've got Legends and you've got Follett, right? What's really interesting is different ones have different stakes. So some have the concessions, some have the bookstore. Game Day has their own store. And what we allowed them to do was to buy wholesale on behalf of the athletes, right? Or sorry, how do I explain this? We allowed them to buy wholesale so that they could pick and choose what athletes they wanted to sell on their shelves. Adam, can you go into this a little bit?
Yeah, and this was something that I actually learned a lot from you on this, because I don't come from a merchandising or a retail background. And when you run a brick and mortar, anything, your margins are going to be a lot higher than they are on e-commerce, right? That just makes sense. You've got rent, you've got employees, you've got utilities, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So you throw in this wrinkle of NIL merchandise where you have to pay the athlete out, a royalty or a commission for using their NIL, and that's another percentage that you've got to build into your margins, right? And it's really, it's narrow, because are you going to sell a T-shirt for $75 so that you can cover your cost? So a lot of these retailers, bookstores, we're staying away from the NIL stuff because, number one, they're trying to figure out how to build in that extra margin to pay the athlete. But then number two, we live in a transfer portal world, right? I mean, Illinois basketball felt the pain of this last year when people are transferring out after a year. Well, what's different at the collegiate level than the pros is if an athlete transfers from your school and becomes eligible at another institution, you can never sell that licensed apparel with their name on it ever again. You can't mark it down. You can't do anything. It is no longer, a paired licensed product. And so you just have to burn those. And it put a lot of fear, a lot of concern into retailers like, geez, am I just going to have to eat this? let alone when you're dealing with sports, injuries happen, man. Somebody blows out their knee, Paige Beckers, you
Well,
know.
it happened with Andre Curbelo. I'm just going to say it.
Mhm.
And we have a really great partner with Game Day Spirit, who has concessions and the main store in Illinois. And so, they were putting in orders for several hundred units. Well, he didn't have a great year. Was injured, and then he transferred. Love you, Andre. You were great to us, but wish you the best at St. John's. So then we got to thinking, us and our retail partner Game Day, were like, okay, how do we figure out a way so that they don't have to worry about the risk? And so what we started doing was a little hybrid model, right? So as long as Game Day places an order by Monday at 4 p.m., we'll make sure that the items they need for the players they want are ready by Friday. So I'm just looking right now, and I see, Illinois, we got Chase Brown on the Heisman hunt, and Tommy DeVito, who had almost a perfect game on Saturday. So he goes, we're kind of talking about it. He's like, I don't know how long Tommy's going to be here. He's only really got a year of eligibility. I don't want to get stuck with his jersey. So I'm like, look, why don't you just take 12 of them and then do the rest for Chase Brown? Cool. Right. We want to be able to help our retail partners out. And I think that's really important. And that's something that's special, I think.
So, Stephen, let me ask you a question. For somebody that says that they're like, hey, I know Campus Ink. They're based in Urbana. They're right there. They can get jerseys to them real quick. For a school that's maybe not located where the warehouse is or where you're making the products, what would be the solution there?
Yeah, so it's the same thing. It's just it adds a day or two of shipping, right? So Indiana's 1 day of shipping. Good thing we are centrally located. So yeah, getting to San Diego is going to take an extra 3 days, right? We also, we're pretty good at the logistics and the supply chain side of printing, and we give a lot of credit to our awesome production team. But also like our CTO Neil came from a huge piece of software to manage print shops. So like we're getting pretty good at it. It's getting pretty fun, and we've got some technology that we're pretty proud of. We can't peel back the curtains quite yet, but it's allowing us, like, we're getting nerdy in the printing side of things, and people give me shit for it, but whatever.
The other side of that kind of wholesale solution is it's great for the athlete as well, on kind of that like education, professional development side. But also the support side. How cool to see your jersey, in the bookstore, in venue. But then we can also go to that athlete and we say, look, this is how our wholesale program works. The commissions are going to be wholesale versus retail. Here's why. And so it's that other layer of teaching them how this world works, how merchandise works, how retail works. And we don't just say, hey, we'll send you a check once every 3 months. It's teaching them why this is beneficial to them, how it's beneficial to them, why it's so important to kind of be a part of something that can offer this solution. So it's so multifaceted, and it's been really exciting to watch it kind of come to fruition, and on both sides just provide such a great opportunity.
Can we switch gears for a second and talk about some wins we didn't see coming, maybe at Purdue? What do you got, Sean?
Well, I think the coolest thing that I've seen from Purdue is, first of all, their volleyball team is going off right now. On the court and off the court. On the court, they're playing great, but off the court, their sales are incredible. I think Ava Hudson, who is their star freshman outside hitter, is she leading the store in sales, Adam? If she's not, she's right up there.
She's in the very, very close top. I don't think she's fully leading, but she is right there.
Yeah, and so that's really cool, and it's something that we've talked about for quite a bit, is these women's sports. We had a feeling that they would do really well, and it's proven once again, just like Virginia Tech softball, here's Purdue volleyball. People love it. People are really into it, and it shows in Ava Hudson and the rest of the team sales. It's just so cool.
If you think about it, right, like women's volleyball, like how many high school athletes are there, or middle school volleyball players, and they go to a Purdue game and like, that's my hero right there.
Yeah.
100%.
They're like, I remember at Barrington High School, like, well, Molly Pfeiffer, stud soccer player, right? Everyone knew her name, right? And so it's like, you think about how many kids are figuring out who their heroes are, and it's like, Ava's a hero to so many future stars, and that's the audience there.
Yeah, and like, I mean, if you just kind of track where the trends of the sport as a whole are going, right? There's not really a massive pro path for women's volleyball or men's volleyball, but it has a huge following, right? Like hundreds of thousands of athletes across the country with not really a pro, a penultimate level. So the collegiate
Highest
competition
level.
is that
Yeah.
level, right? You're looking at Big Ten matchups, against Wisconsin. I think they had 25,000 people, a sellout match. That's as big as any basketball game, right?
Extremely visible too. Big Ten Network is all in on supporting volleyball and a sport like wrestling. They show on TV all the
Yep.
time. So when you have that
Yeah.
visibility factor too, and kids can watch on TV and really get to know them and know their stories, just adds to it.
Adam, what's the plan for someone like Ava, like a big hitter like that, that's making, like what do you guys have in store to do for her?
Yeah, and this is the cool thing around, we talk a lot about kind of these core products, the 365 things that are on the store. And then we talk about the other avenue of being able to do the custom work. And the thing that's really exciting is, when we have an athlete like Ava pop off and she can prove out, she moves merchandise, there's a market out there for her. That's where we can really implement our one-to-one relationship with the athlete and say, hey, this is exciting. Let's capitalize on this momentum for you. Let's, put together something custom that speaks to who you are, speaks to this season, and put it in the hands of your fans. But the best part is that really isn't much heavier of a lift on her. She can still focus on the momentum of her sport, focusing on where she's at in the season, making a postseason push. We can kind of work for her on the back end of doing this really special activation and just blow it out.
Do you guys have a limited drop coming for her? Is there something in the works?
There's something works.
Sweet,
yep.
Sweet. So let's talk there. Like, we have Chase Brown on the Heisman hunt, right? What's going on with Chase? Sean, can you talk to us a little about that?
So for those that don't know, Chase Brown is Illinois' star running back. He's having an unbelievable season. He actually has a twin brother on the team, Sydney, who's a safety.
Sydney, yep.
Sydney had 2 interceptions last weekend. It was literally the Browns show. So we got a couple things up our sleeve here in terms of what we want to do for the Browns.
And honestly, like just to talk about how what we do is different, and to use your term, Stephen, special, but just also in terms of leading this out, and makes me really proud is that relationship with the athlete, because not only are we texting each other like, all right, let's get something spun up for Chase, blah, blah, blah. But then Monday comes around and he's like, hey, y'all, did you see my game on Saturday? Can we get something going? And so we have that conversation with him. It's not, he's not removed from that conversation. He's a part of it. It's exciting to be able to invite them
mom
into
and
that
dad,
process,
right? And the
right.
parents, I'm coming into town. Can I make sure I get my shirt? All those texts on Friday at 4:00.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, yeah, no problem. We got you.
Yeah.
But that's sports. But that's the beauty of sports. It has moments. Like other things don't have moments like sports do, that are unpredictable, that are spur of the moment, that drive emotions, and that's the beauty of it. That's why I love it.
All right, let's talk about a couple things that were some challenges that we're working. Not challenges, but some new cool things. So first of all, NIL legislation clarification. Professor Cook, can you tell us what happened there?
Go ahead, Adam.
Oh boy. Yeah. So there was some clarification and some updates around the interim NIL policy from the NCAA. And it basically clarified, or maybe didn't so much clarify, what institutions could do, around NIL activities. And one of the things that was concerning was that they were saying schools cannot, procure deals or insert themselves into deals with student athletes, which that wasn't necessarily new, but they also said that they cannot review NIL contracts for student athletes as well. And that's one thing that's giving some people maybe some pause or concern. The other kind of biggest change was around what the institution's ability is, in terms of services to provide to student athletes. And the language that they used was they cannot provide service to student athletes that aren't readily available to all students. And I think that raised a couple of concerns and people were freaking out a little bit. That was one thing to me that actually didn't bother me so much. When you're talking about photography services and, photography studios and things like that, if the design department is providing services to every other student, there's no reason why a student athlete couldn't participate in that as well. I think the main focus that the NCAA was trying to kind of dive into was the institution should be there for educational purposes, not contract procurement, not deal procurement, et cetera. But it'll be an interesting 6 months, unsurprisingly, as we unravel what the not so clear clarity was from the NC2A.
So what does that mean?
No one's really sure. That's the bottom line.
It seemed like a lot of words to really just say nothing again. They're really not a lot set in stone in terms of changes. A lot more wait and see.
Yeah, and you know what? I'll take this moment to maybe highlight our episode last week with Vic Donardi. He was an enforcement officer for the NCAA. He was with the NFL for a long time as well. And so if you haven't listened to that episode, go back and listen to it, because he provides some really good insight into, number one, some of it's fair, but I think that the NCAA gets a lot of flack from people, which again, some of it's fair, but there are really good people who are trying to come up with solutions there in those offices, and really talented people. And the other thing that we talked about that I think is challenging is when you're coming up with policies that are supposed to be blanket policies that apply equally to somebody like Bryce Young as they do to somebody like, I don't know, what I would have been as a student athlete who no one knows, my name. It's a really challenging thing to do when you're talking about blanket policies. So it's tough.
Yeah.
So, okay. So really be mindful, be watchful, but nothing crazy. Okay.
Exactly.
It's interesting, to see what the university's involvement can be and all that good stuff. We've got a team that's growing, which is cool.
Yes, we do. Thankfully.
We thankfully have a few awesome individuals. We have 4 people starting tomorrow, which when this airs, they've already been a couple weeks into this. But account managers, partnership, licensing, creative. Adam, tell us about the squad.
Yeah. So really what we're trying to do is just grow our team so that we can continue to provide a high level of customer service. And, I guess just that's it. Customer service to both our fans and our institutional partners. And so we've got Danielle Tate, who is going to be joining us. She was most recently at Influencer, who's, another great partner of ours, to kind of jump in on some of the licensing and the institutional partnerships, liaising on behalf of account directors. Sarah Hoffman, who's going to be working with our athletes, making sure that, they're getting the high quality service they deserve, activating those, limited releases, handling some of the customer service on their behalf as well. And then we've got Sarah Eichelman, who's going to be joining us in a similar role, continuing to kick up on the marketing and branding side. And really that's the bottom line of us scaling out our team. Is as we've grown this, we've found a solution that a lot of people want. And it's a good problem to have, but it's still a problem trying to keep up with demand when everybody's like, yes, we want you to do it. Can you launch tomorrow? So that's what we're trying to do is make sure that, we can continue to keep up with speed, provide the best quality customer service we can.
Fourth quarters can be interesting. It's going to be challenging. It's going to be fun. We want to make sure that everyone still gets their T-shirt. I think that's important too.
Yeah. I would just add specifically on Danielle, guys, do you realize how hard it is to find anybody that has previous NIL experience? It just doesn't exist. It's 1 year old. She's coming from Influencer, which is fully immersed in NIL and really prior to NIL even legislation even existing. So
And she just won an award. You'll have to forgive me. I don't remember the exact name of the award, but it's like Sportswoman of the Year for her city, Birmingham, Alabama. So we're really, really grateful to have her.
Yeah. And we've got some cool things coming out in the next couple of weeks. As always, feel free to reach out to us. We've been getting a lot of messages, DMs, emails after this. Just being like, oh, I listen to this or I listen to that. This is a fun conversation. We want to be as vulnerable as possible so you can kind of see what we're going through as we're building this. I think it's more of a way that someday we can go back and watch these maybe. I don't know. Like, oh yeah,
it's therapy, man.
Remember
it's
that.
Therapy.
So we'll have to do this again. It's cool to just riff and chat with you all about this.
I got one thing to add before we're out of here. This is my NIL deal of the week.
Oh,
yes.
Oh, is this a new?
This
segment?
is a new segment. I didn't even tell you
right
guys
now?
ahead of time. This is my new segment, NIL deal of the week. This could be an old deal, but this is pretty cool. Drew Timmy, who you guys know, Gonzaga star. He's got the
Mr.
Is it a
Mustache.
Fu Manchu? What is that?
I think it is a Fu Manchu. I think it goes into whether or not it's connected or not connected.
Yeah. He's one of these guys that feels like he's been in college basketball forever because Gonzaga's good and he's always been on the big stage. But he's been able to capitalize on NIL. He's got to deal with Dollar Shave Club to become the world's first and only chinfluencer. He has a quote. He says, "Whether I'm driving in the lane or choosing my next facial hairstyle, I'm all about being myself. Have you seen my super smooth chin?" So pretty cool.
The puns.
Yes.
That's a good one.
The puns.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like this. I'm gonna send you some of my favorites now and see if I can get one in the deal of the week Hall of Fame. I like this new segment.
How do you track all of these, Sean? Are you just like scouring the internet?
That was a quick Twitter search.
I love it. Whatever happens to get pushed his way.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah.
Guys, this is good. Let's do this again soon. We'll talk to y'all soon.
All righty.
See ya. Bye.